Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today. Today's session is called How to Write an Interview-Worthy Cover Letter and Resume. I'd like to apologize for our technical difficulties last week. Thank you for your patience and thank you for joining us today. Before we start, I would like to take a moment to recognize the traditional Indigenous lands where EcoCanada's office is based in Calgary. At EcoCanada, we're committed to working towards respectful acknowledgement, collaboration and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples across Canada. This starts with acknowledging our homage and privilege to work and live within the Treaty 7 territory. Today, we are presenting from the City of Calgary, home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. We would also like to take this time to acknowledge the traditional territories and oral practices of the Niitsitapi, home of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations of the Tsuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda, which include Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. EcoCanada is also committed to increasing the participation of Indigenous talent in the environmental sector through our BEAR training programs. The BEAR guiding principles are centered around respect and acknowledgement of Indigenous peoples' cultures, histories, legal status, and relationship to their land. Since 2001, these programs have braided traditional knowledge with Western science alongside elder and traditional knowledge holder participation to help Indigenous communities participate in and benefit from Canada's environmental sector. My name is Danielle Fisher. I am the event lead manager for EcoCanada, and I will be moderating this webinar today. Before we start, there are a few housekeeping guidelines for today's session to ensure that everyone can enjoy and participate in the webinar effectively. All participants are muted, so please check your audio settings to ensure that you can hear us properly. If you're experiencing any technical issues, please use the question box and select EcoCanada, the organizer, and I will do all that I can to resolve the issue. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be made available on demand to you within the next 24 hours. Everyone who registered for the webinar will receive an email with a link to the video. Any questions that you have about the presentation or today's topic can be submitted through the chat box or question box. We will have dedicated time after the presentation to answer any questions from the audience. Finally, we really want to know what you think about our webinars and how we can keep improving. You will be sent a short survey after the webinar ends. Please let us know what you think or if you have any comments or suggestions about the webinar. Before we start, I want to introduce EcoCanada and tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. EcoCanada's vision is to build the world's leading environmental workforce. We champion the end-to-end career of the environmental professional. And the reason we are here today is because forestry professionals fall under the very large environmental of the green economy. Our efforts promote and drive responsible, sustainable economic growth to ensure that environmental care and best practice is a priority. Without further ado, I will now introduce our wonderful presenters today. First up, we have Lauren Fletcher. Lauren has been with EcoCanada for 3 years and brings a diverse background in administration and coordination. She assists the HR manager with internal full cycle recruitment and onboarding, HR administration, and internal professional development programs. Lauren earned her BA in psychology from the University of British Columbia, Okanagan, and also holds a certificate in business studies from TAFE in Australia, alongside a variety of other business-related certificates. She is currently working towards her CPHR Alberta designation. Next up, we have Emma Duffy. Emma is the Manager of Employer Services at EcoCanada. She collaborates with all teams across ECO to help elevate our employment service offerings and build relationships with external partners. Emma primarily works with ECO's wage funding team, marketing department, and HR services to deliver quality programs and opportunities to those in the environmental workforce. Over to you, ladies.
All right, thank you so much, Danielle, and thank you everyone for joining us. Today we are going to be covering what to include on your resume and cover letter, tailoring your application for specific jobs, tips and best advice from us recruiters, and then we should have some time at the end as well to answer any questions you might have. So to start us off, I just want to do a quick knowledge check here. So we are hopefully here going to have a poll pop up on your screen. So if you're able to see that, please answer and let us know, how long do you think that it takes the average job seeker to find full-time employment in a career-related job? So if you're able to click the buttons there, please let us know. Do you think it's 5 to 10 days, 1 to 2 months, 2 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, or more than 1 year? I'll give you a few moments here to answer.
Okay, so for our poll, we have 46% at 3 to 6 months, 19% at more than 1 year, 15% at 2 to 3 months, 12% at 1 to 2 months, and 9% at 5 to 10 months.
All right, thank you all for answering. So the answer is 3 to 6 months. So that's why it's really important for you to focus on your job search and ensure that your resume and cover letter will really help you stand out in the crowd. All right, so here are some more stats about the job search that you might not know. Did you know that up to 75% of applicants do not meet all of the requirements of a job posting? Up to 80% of resumes are rejected in less than 11 seconds. So your resume really has to make an impact in a very short window. And only 2% of candidates will be selected for an interview. So these stats might sound scary, but they help to illustrate how competitive it actually can be when you're searching for a job. But that's what we're here for. We're here to help you be one of those 2% that make it through to the interview. All right, so the next topic I'm going to cover is on resumes. As a recruiter, I see a lot of resumes, and there are some simple things you need to make sure that you're doing as a job seeker to ensure that your resume and cover letter really grab the attention of the recruiter. So many recruiters will see an overwhelming amount of applications for each advertised job posting, and the time spent reviewing a single application can be as little as 6 seconds. So we've created some top tips here to ensure that your resume is clear, concise, and highlights your best, most relevant skills to catch the attention of the hiring manager. So first, you want to make sure that you carefully read the job description and follow any instructions about how to compile and submit your resume. So if they ask you to submit your resume and cover letter in one document, for example, then make sure you do that. Recruiters will often automatically reject people who fail to submit in the right format. Try to limit yourself to 2 pages. I know that can seem hard at times as you want to get as much information in as possible, but remember you have as little as 6 seconds to grab that recruiter's attention, and recruiters just aren't going to read a 4-page long resume. So try and keep it to 2 pages if you can. Put your most impressive achievements at the top. Again, most recruiters will just skim your resume, so you need to make sure that your achievements are right there, up and center right at the top. Use bullet points, so try to limit yourself to about 5 or 6 bullets per work or volunteer experience. Focus on achievements rather than listing all of your tasks and responsibilities. So for example, if you managed a project, try not to talk about the different tasks involved, but rather what you achieved. So maybe the revenue generated or time saved or outcomes delivered. This really helps to demonstrate your impact at the company. This one's really important. Do not lie on your resume. You will likely get caught in the interview, in the reference check, or after you've been hired. So make sure that what you're putting on your resume is actually true. Proofread it and then proofread it again. Have someone else check it over for any spelling, grammar, or formatting errors. Many people often put references available upon request at the bottom of their resume. This is really unnecessary and it just takes up valuable space, so you can feel free to leave that off, especially if you're having trouble keeping it to that 2 pages. And then last on our list here is make sure you save your file with an appropriate file name. So for example, your first and last name _ resume or something along those lines. So what to include on your resume? There is no one way to do a resume. After all, it comes down to individual preference, but we've included a template here that would be a really great starting point. You'll receive a copy of this resume after the webinar that you can use as a template as well, but there's also lots of templates online or through Word. But we're going to take a quick look at some of the key sections and information that actually go into your resume. So we'll go through them one by one. So first up is contact information. So it may seem really obvious, but your resume needs to include your contact information. This is how the recruiter will contact you. So you need to make sure that you use a professional email address. If your current email is not suitable for sending to a recruiter, then you can always set up a new email address specifically for your job search, perhaps containing your name. So for example, your first name, last name at gmail.com. It's also really important to make sure that your contact information is up to date and current. It looks really unprofessional if your phone number or your email is incorrect on your resume. Next, we have the summary section. So it used to be common practice in Canada to use an objective statement. So that's where people would write a sentence or two about what sort of job they were looking for or what their career goals were. But the summary has replaced the objective, and that's because it's a better opportunity to summarize your experience relevant to the position. So this is your opportunity to grab and hold someone's attention. The summary should just be a few sentences long and really showcase who you are as a professional. So you should include your best skills and some of your main achievements. And there's a sample summary there at the bottom. Next, we have your key skills. So your resume should include a list of between 6 to 10 skills that link your experience to the job that you're applying for. So if the job you're applying for was advertised, the job description may provide a list of skills and experiences that are essential for actually doing the job. It may also provide a list of desirable skills and experience. So your list of key skills and strengths really need to respond to all the items on the essential list and as many as possible on the desirable list. If you don't have all the skills that are listed there, that's okay, don't lie, just leave those ones out from your resume. Next, we have the education section. So your educational history only needs to show your highest level of education, and you do not need to include your results. If you can, you should also try to include a few bullet points listing any academic achievements you've had, so maybe any awards you've won or groups that you've been a part of. Many environmental careers also require technical skills as well as soft skills, so make sure that you include any experience you have, such as GIS, knowledge of environmental laws or regulations, eligibility for memberships, or any other software or equipment that you might have experience with. In this section, you should also include the Essential Skills Training Certificate that you've taken with EcoCanada and list any of the courses that you've completed or even the ones that you're currently working on. You should also mention that you are a participant of the EP mentorship program and that you are EPT certified, or even mention that your certification is in process if it's not quite done yet. And then next we have the professional experience. So when providing your employment history, you should start with your most recent job and then go backwards from there. And you should provide the position title, the company name, city or country that was located in, and the dates that you worked there. If you haven't had a job before at all, you can use other things to demonstrate your experience, including work experience you've maybe done through school, co-ops or internships, or even volunteer work that you've done. And then for each job that you've listed or volunteer experience, you should provide a list of the things that you achieved while in that job, and any significant contributions that you made to the organization as well. Make sure that those achievements and contributions match some of the key skills and strengths that you've listed earlier in your resume. And then next is volunteer experience. So you might wonder if it is acceptable to put volunteer work on your resume when you're applying for jobs, and the answer is yes. Volunteer work can be an excellent way to showcase your key skills, such as event planning, fundraising, or problem solving, and should certainly be either integrated with your other paid work experiences or added in a separate section like the example on the screen here. And then lastly, we have activities. So you can also include any activities, interests, leadership examples, certifications, publications, or even languages that you might speak. Those are just a way to highlight some of your skills that you might have. This activities section is optional. So if you're really struggling for space and you're having a hard time keeping your resume to 2 pages, you can just leave that section out completely. So now I'll pass things over to Emma.
Perfect. Thanks, Lauren. So now we're going to spend a few minutes talking about ATS systems. So we'll do another quick knowledge check here. So Danielle will throw up another poll for us. So if you can answer, do you know what ATS software is? Yes, no, or I've heard of it, but I'm unsure of what it does. So we'll give you a few seconds here to answer that, and then Danielle will give us the results.
Okay, so we have 40% yes, 38% no, and 22% I have heard of it, but I'm unsure of what it does.
Perfect. All right, thank you. So yeah, sounds like we have a good mix there of some people have, some people haven't, and a lot of us are a little unsure. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail of what it is and how we can use it to our advantage in the job search. So ATS stands for Applicant Tracking System. So we often hear that job seekers are submitting applications online and not getting through to the interview. So there's a misconception that this is because the recruiter has reviewed the resume and then rejected it, when in reality, the problem is the majority of resumes never even land in the hands of a human or the recruiter. So they're automatically stored in an applicant tracking system, which is a software application used by companies to search through thousands of resumes quickly to determine which ones are the best fit for a position. So according to JobScan, about 99% of Fortune 500 companies and a growing number of small and mid-sized businesses filter through resumes with an applicant tracking system. So your resume needs to go through the software before reaching the recruiter. So how do we get through all of this? So an applicant tracking system software provides recruiting and hiring tools for companies. Among other functions, these systems collect and sort thousands of resumes. So top employers receive hundreds of resumes in one place, helping the recruiters and the hiring managers stay organized. In theory, these systems save time by automatically highlighting top candidates, but in reality, ATS do help hiring professionals narrow their applicant pool, but top candidates can slip through the cracks. So if you're applying through any online form, you're likely applying through an ATS. Even job sites like Indeed and LinkedIn have their own built-in ATS. Some applicant tracking systems can automatically compare your resume to the job description. ATS then ranks each applicant based on how well their resume scores based on the job description. Instead of reviewing each and every application, the recruiter can then focus on those candidates the ATS has identified as a great match. So what can we do to actually get past that? So fortunately, knowledge is power, and we can give some tips on how we can get through the system. So understanding how an ATS works helps us to take steps to ensure our resume makes it to the recruiter and gets us a chance. So one of the common ways ATS systems are used is to search applications for keywords from the job description. So for your application to rank highly and be selected by the recruiter, your resume needs to contain the right keywords. So you need to tailor your resume, and what does that exactly mean? So first, we want to echo the exact phrasing from the job description on your resume. So looking at the example on the screen here, if the position calls for GIS software, then your resume must use those exact words on there. If you write it in a different format or a shortened version, an ATS will not recognize that as a match, even though it might be meaning the same thing. So making sure you're using the exact descriptions and words that they have on the job description. Second, we want to make sure we don't use generic keyword lists you found online. So instead, take the time to review the job description that you're applying for, identify the keywords they're using instead of just going off of some online keywords that have been suggested. So in this job posting example, you would want to make sure you include the specific job title, so junior environmental consultant, as recruiters often search the ATS for the job title. So you could include this somewhere like in your summary, like Lauren was mentioning before. Third, when it comes to acronyms, include both the spelled out version and the shortened one. So because an ATS doesn't recognize even common abbreviations, you want to make sure you have both versions in there so it doesn't slip past the system. For example, it might not necessarily recognize that an MBA is the same as a Master of Business Administration. So you need to be specific in the resume, but also make sure it still makes sense. Fourth, and this one's an easy one, is always write out the entire year. So instead of just putting 15, make sure you're putting 2015 so that the system can recognize the years there. You'll also want to focus on hard skills for the ATS. An ATS primarily looks for hard skills when it scans your resume. The soft skills that the job might be looking for will be assessed later in your cover letter and during an interview. So making sure you're really sticking to all those hard skills listed in the job description on your resume first. And finally, because ATS systems are so specific, you always want to adjust your resume for each application. So adjusting your wording for every application takes more time and effort than sending a generic resume, but it's worth it. One well-worded, tailored resume will likely have more results than 10 generic ones. So making sure you're really looking at that job description, pulling in those keywords, and making sure that it will go through the system. So next up, when you upload your resume into the ATS, the recruiter won't necessarily view the actual file. So some ATS software systems take the information from your resume and then they load it into a digital profile to make things more easy to look at for the recruiter. This can cause big problems on a job seeker side. So many ATS algorithms are outdated or unintelligent, and different types of formatting can cause your resume to get distorted or lost. So this means the keyword or details might not be imported correctly. So modern ATS are starting to get away from this practice, but some popular ones still do it. So in order to create an ATS-friendly resume that is accepted by the software, you can follow these tips to make sure nothing gets lost in the process. So first one is don't include information in the header. The ATS may not be able to read this information, so it might become lost. Second is don't use fancy templates with tables and images. Again, these can get kind of mixed up through the ATS and your information or key points might get lost. So making sure you're using a simple template for your resume. And then always tailor your resume using the keywords from the job advert, just as we talked about before. If you don't include enough of these keywords, your application will likely not rank high enough to make its way through to the recruiter. And then try and steer away from any fancy fonts. So I know it can be nice to be creative and can get a little bit fancy with your resume, but this might not pull through correctly with these systems. So sticking with the classic fonts such as Arial, Times New Roman, and Cambria. And finally, make sure that you save your resume in a compatible format. So typically this means a docx or a PDF file format. If you're ever in doubt, typically at the bottom of a job description, they'll tell you how they want the resume saved or what format. So make sure you're always looking at that and follow it correctly so it goes through. All right, and then finally, it's important to remember that you aren't only writing your resume for the ATS. So once your resume successfully makes it past the ATS, it will then be reviewed by a recruiter or the hiring manager who will decide if they want to consider you as a candidate. So while it's important to include all those keywords throughout your resume, you should also make sure your resume is not stuffed with keywords that doesn't make sense once it actually makes it through to a human. So making sure you're honest, and as the recruiter or hiring manager, again, as Lauren mentioned before, will likely find out if you are not. So this means you shouldn't include any of the keywords for the ATS if they don't genuinely match your education, experience, or skills. So making sure we're finding that right balance and being honest with that resume. All right. And then next, some resources are available on the internet to help guide you through the process of tailoring your resume. So we want to highlight ones that can be really useful for ATS applications and making sure you're tailoring them correctly. So JobScan is a tool that gives job seekers an instant analysis of how well their resume is tailored for a particular job and how it can be even better optimized for an ATS. So if you visit JobScan and either paste in the text of your resume or upload the file, and then paste in the job posting description you're applying for as well. So then JobScan will give you a breakdown of how well you match the job description in a few different fields. and you can access it for free and get 5 scans a month. So this will also help you improve your resume for that job and find out if it's scoring well through an ATS system as well. And then another tip is if you have multiple email accounts, you can sign up for multiple free accounts in JobScan using your different emails, as you only get 5 scans a month. So we really recommend you check out JobScan, as it can be a super valuable resource for you as job seekers to make sure you're getting the most out of your resumes. All right, now that we've talked about resumes, we want to finish off with just touching on cover letters as well. So they are a bit of a lost art these days, but they are still very important to us recruiters. So we'll go into a little bit more detail on what to choose in your cover letter. So your cover letter is really where you can go into detail about why you are looking for a job, why your skills are transferable, or explaining any gaps or things that a recruiter might flag on your resume. This could be things like job duration, employment gaps, or reason for leaving place of employment as well. So a cover letter is really your opportunity to be more memorable to the recruiter by showing them some of your personality and adding on those things that can't be captured in your resume, and just adding a little bit more information. So what should you include in your cover letter? So a few key things. So the hiring manager's name. If you're not sure what it is, if it's not on the job description, you can search the company's website or LinkedIn profile to try to get the name of the hiring manager. This can just make it a little bit more personable. If you can't find the name of the person hiring, you can just use a general welcome, such as Dear Hiring Manager. The first paragraph is used to identify the position title, the company name, and where you found the job posting. You can also provide a brief introduction and why you were interested in the position and company. And if you were referred by someone, this is a really great place to put who referred you in this paragraph, as it can kind of show a little bit more interest in the company as well. Moving on to the second paragraph, this is where we want to explain what you have to offer to the organization. So here you can provide a summary of your skills and experiences. Ensure you customize this section to showcase your most relevant skills that directly relate to that job description. And make sure you incorporate some of those keywords again that were used in the job description in the second paragraph. And then in that third paragraph, we want to use this to provide some examples of your past work or projects that demonstrate the skills you mentioned in paragraph 2, so starting to show the evidence of those skills. Or you can use this space as well to explain to the employer why it would be a good fit for their organization. And then in that final paragraph, we want to thank the person for their time and consideration and reiterate your interest in working for the company as well. All right. So that is all from us. Thank you so much for your attention in today's session. We do have time now for any questions you may have. You can type them into the chat box and we can answer them to the best we can.
Thank you so much, ladies. That was a wonderful presentation, very informative. We do have some questions. The first question is our template ATS optimized, knowing that a lot of recruiters are using ATS software now?
I would say yes and no. If there's anything in the header that probably won't pull through to an ATS system, but for the most part, everything else, if you're using bullet points and stuff, it should be fine. If you have any like images or graphics, then that might not pull through very well. So it is a good idea to have multiple formats of your resume. So you can have a fancy looking one if you're emailing it or providing it to a hiring manager directly. But if you are applying online, it's best to use a very simple template. Hopefully that answers your question.
And then how do we get soft skills like pragmatic communication skills to be added into the resume to be clear to the ATS?
I would say those soft skills could maybe be included mostly in your cover letter. In your resume, you could add keywords like that, but if they don't match exact phrasing from the job description, it might not pull through to the ATS system. So if you do have enough keyword matches and your resume does get through the system, then the recruiter will kind of see those soft skills in your resume when they're reviewing it with their own eyes. But otherwise, I would keep those soft skills more into your cover letter and then also into the interview phase. You can go into more detail if you get through the system.
Okay, great. If you're a PhD holder, is it wrong? Sorry. If you're a PhD holder, is it wrong to mention a master's degree for a job you feel stating your highest qualification will disadvantage you?
That's a good question.
Isn't it?
I think all education is valuable.
I think he's wondering if he would be overqualified if that is a disadvantage.
That's a really good question. I would still include it. I think it's good to keep all of your information on your resume. You could go into a bit more detail in a cover letter and sort of explain your experience level, what you're looking for in a job, and maybe kind of clarify that you're willing to kind of start your career in Canada, maybe at a more, I don't want to say a junior level, but maybe a little bit lower level than someone with a PhD might. But I think it's still worth including on your resume. But then, yeah, just go into a bit more detail about your career goals and kind of what sort of job you're looking for within the cover letter.
Okay, and then coming off of that, they're asking, did you say we should only include our highest education? If yes, why?
Yes. Lots of people have multiple like certificates or diplomas or little short courses, and those just take up a lot of room on your resume. So having your most, I guess your highest education is more relevant, as that's kind of what a recruiter will look at. They'll sort of scan through and kind of look for those main undergrads, master's degrees, PhDs, that kind of stuff. If you do have more education, you could always list out some more of those courses, maybe in your activity section, or just keep them short in your education section. But you want to keep your sections quite concise to make sure that you can fit everything on your resume within the 2 pages. So if you do list every single course that you've taken or every program that you've taken, it might take up a bunch of valuable space on your resume. So it is worth mentioning. You can always speak to more courses, maybe relevant courses that you've taken in a cover letter again, or in an interview. But I would tailor your resume to add in the specific courses that would relate to the specific job, if that makes sense.
Next, we have, how do I write a resume when I don't fit all of the requirements, but I want to move in that direction? What are some points for them to put into their resumes to say that they want to move in that direction?
Yeah, so it's still valuable to put your previous experiences, but maybe in your summary section, you could expand and make that a little bit longer, not a huge paragraph, but maybe indicate in the summary what sort of career you're looking for. If you're transitioning into a new sector or a new career, you could maybe identify their why or what you're looking for in your next kind of move. Otherwise, in your previous roles or experience that you've had, maybe try and add in bullet points that might have some transferable skills that might cross over into your new role as well. So even if you're not doing something exactly the same, most jobs have some sort of transferable skills that would relate to any sort of job. So I would just expand on some of those skills that would be relevant to the specific job, and in your key skills section as well. So make sure if you have the key skills that are listed in like a job advertisement, make sure those kind of correspond with each other.
And then they're asking, so should we put the lower level but still relevant education in the cover letter, e.g. the bachelor's, and only the master's in the resume?
I would include the bachelor and the master's in your resume. If you took any other courses, like a certificate or something like a lower level type program, those could maybe be listed in a cover letter. But anything that's at like a university level, I would say you should include on your resume. So any undergrads, masters, all of those should be included.
Sean Paul is asking, should we put past experience in another country on our resume, as most employers don't consider jobs done abroad?
Yes, for sure you should. Lots of jobs, no matter where they are, have transferable skills. You've still learned valuable things from different countries. And having experience in other countries is a benefit to some companies as well, because you bring different worldviews, perspectives, cultural empathy, all different kinds of skills that might translate into different roles. So I think it's definitely worth keeping them on your resume. If you don't think they're relevant, if it's in a totally different industry, or maybe it was like a retail job or something that doesn't align with your career goals, you can just keep those ones short. So you maybe don't even have to put bullet points. You could just kind of keep the role, the title, and where it was. But it is valuable, because otherwise you would have big gaps on your resume, and that might flag a question for a recruiter. So I would definitely keep those on your resume still.
Should we include non-relevant or casual jobs in the resume? If yes, then should it be mentioned separately or with the same section of work experience?
Most resumes that I see, they're still included in your main work experience section, but as I just mentioned, you don't have to add any bullet points to those. You can literally just list the job title, the dates you worked there, and the company name. That's all the information they would need. If it's not relevant, it's still good to show that you were working during that period of time, but you don't need to expand on it. So you could expand on the more relevant jobs that you've had and go into more detail with how it translates. If you're struggling for room, I guess, on your resume, you could leave them off and then just mention in your cover letter that like the period of time, because they might notice a gap on your resume. So you could mention that you were working some like retail type jobs during that gap in your resume.
And then we have a question that's kind of along those lines. If I have 20 years of experience at 5 companies, how do I include all of this in my CV?
That's a good question. I would still list all 5 of those experiences, but maybe the more recent ones I would expand on more, and then keep the ones that are probably 10 to 20 years ago, keep those ones short so they can be a little bit more concise. So maybe just a few bullet points, and then expand on the more relevant, the more recent ones, as they'll have, I guess, more recent experience and skills that you could bring to a new role.
If a job description requires a few years of experience and you have more experience than that, what should you write in your resume? All of the experience that you have, or only the one that matches the job most?
I think you should still include it all. Most employers, if they're saying they're looking for like 3 years experience, for example, most times that comes down to, I guess, salary level, and then also, I guess, the level of experience is a part of that as well. So I would still include it, but you could, again, keep them concise, keep them short. It's okay to be overqualified. Most recruiters won't, I guess, dismiss your resume if you're a bit over. If you maybe have 20 years of experience and you're applying to a job that requires like 1 to 3 years experience, they might pass on your resume just because you may be overqualified and may be bored in the job, or maybe have higher salary expectations. But I think it's still valuable to keep all of your relevant experience in there, but maybe in your cover letter then go into detail about what sort of job or what level job you're looking for. Maybe that you're looking for a job where you can get in and kind of work your way up and gain experience. So there's different ways you could kind of tailor your wording. You could probably look on Google for some like sample text that you could put in your cover letter to explain that.
Okay. Should we tailor our resume to both the job description and qualifications, or just the qualification?
focus on the qualifications, but probably add in, if you've had experience doing similar roles and responsibilities that are in the job description, then you should match a few of those keywords as well. But I would say your focus would probably be on the qualification section, like any of the essential skills or the desirable skills that they're looking for.
Will Eco Canada assist us to develop a professional CV and review it by a professional HR expert?
That's a good question. That might be a question for Andrea.
Let me just see if Andrea is available.
Yep, I'm here.
There you are. Andrea, will Eco Canada assist us to develop a professional CV and have it reviewed by a professional HR expert?
Not at the moment. That is why I'll be sending an email tomorrow to everybody to look through some of the do's and don'ts, like a checklist, so you can do your own audit of your resume, just because of the amount of resumes that of all the applicants, we don't have the capacity to do that at the moment. So that's why we'll include something in there so that you guys can actually do your own audit, and you'll have access to this recording as well, so you can go through it again and just make sure that you're following the recommendations that Lauren and Emma have provided for all of you guys.
Great. And I have another question for you, Andrea.
Yes.
Is August 5th the deadline of submitting our resume and EFTD since the webinar was rescheduled?
Sorry, yeah, no, we have, as if you guys see the screen right now, we've postponed it to August 9th just because of the issue that we had last week. So we have given you guys a little bit more time. And again, I'll be sending an email with all the details on how to submit your resume, how to name the file, and all those things that we'll need from you guys before you submit your resume to me. And then we can go from there. If you guys have any question, you can email imm@eco.ca. and I can get back to you if there's any questions or concerns.
Okay, great. And there's another question, but this might have been answered by you just previously. How does the EFTD program work? Will we be submitting tailored resumes to specific jobs or a generic one? Could you explain the process?
Sure. So it will be a generic one just because at the moment we don't know what type of jobs they're going to be available. We just opened the application for employers a week ago. And so once we have all the employers in, we'll go through all the different positions that they have. But as many of you have already completed the EPT application, you remember that you guys had to select your environmental specialization. So we'll do the matching based on that. And then again, instructions on how to do that, we'll have it on the email that I'll be sending tomorrow. But yeah, for now, it's going to be just a generic showing your experience, your education, and the stuff that you've done through the EFTD program. And then the employer will be the one who will be looking at the resumes. And if they see somebody that match what they're looking for, they'll contact the participant directly.
Great. And then they're also asking, do we need to prepare a cover letter as well?
I don't think we need that at the moment. We just need the resume because again, like the cover letter goes more when you have a specific job that you're applying for, and because we don't have that at the moment, so the resume will be good enough for now. If by any chance the employers are looking for that, then we'll let you know. But at this moment, just the resume will be fine.
Great. And where can they find the EPT application?
That was on the first email that everyone got once they got approved into the program. There was a link in there to the application guide, so you can go through that process. But if you haven't found, please check your spam folder. For some reason, a lot of the emails went into the spam folder. So just double check that it's in there. And if you cannot find it, just email me at imm@eco.ca and I can send you the guide again.
Great. Now I have a few questions for Lauren and Emma. The first one is, if I have experience with consultancy as well as jobs in companies, is it good to add consultancy experience to my CV?
Yes, yep, for sure, add that in there, especially if it's relevant to kind of the job that you're looking for. But yeah, even if you were doing consulting on the side while you were working, you can still add it as a job there and just list some of the things that you were doing, and just list the dates that you were working as a consultant as well. But yeah, definitely valuable.
Great. Should we include the trainings we have had with Eco Canada in our resume?
Yes, you should include the essential skills training, and then feel free, if you think it's relevant to kind of the jobs that you're applying for or the companies, you can list out the courses that you've taken through the program. If you're tight on space, you can leave out the individual courses, but it's worth mentioning, I think, as it's Canadian courses that you've taken that are relevant to the environmental sector.
And then, Andrew, I have a few questions for you. When will Eco Canada open the jobs for the EFTD candidates?
So like I said, it was going to be the employers who are going to be looking at the resumes of those that have completed all of the phases of the program. So that is why it's important that everyone completes the EPT application, the essential skills training, the mentorship program as well. Once you guys have completed all of that, then your resume will be shown to the potential employers, and then the employers will be contacting the participant directly to set up the interviews and the hiring process. And then there's going to be some documents that you guys will receive once you have accepted a job. But yeah, so that's how it's going to work. What was the rest of the question? I don't know if I'm missing something.
No, you're okay.
Okay,
there is
good.
another question that's kind of linked to that, though. For those of us yet to receive our EPT certification, do we also get matched to employers?
Yes, as long as you have submitted your application, even though if you haven't been certified yet, because that takes a little bit longer, you should be fine because you have completed what you needed to do. It's no longer up to you, but it's all the process that we have to do internally at ECO. So you don't have to worry about not having the certification yet, but that's why it's very important that everyone submits their application.
And you are going to send them a follow-up email that they have completed all of the requirements. Am I correct?
Yes, I've been checking to make sure that everyone is doing everything. I did send a follow-up a couple of weeks ago, and I will be doing that this week as well. So to let you guys know if there's anything missing that you need to complete prior to submitting your resume.
Also, my EPT is scheduled for board review in mid-month. So should I write that it's in process?
Yes, that is right.
Okay. Are we going to wait for the mentorship process to end before getting matched to employers?
No, as long as you have completed, there's going to be 3 sessions that you need to do with your mentor with this program. But as long as you've done the first one, you should be good to go.
Great. For Lauren, are there any specific tips for newly graduated job seekers to add into their resume cover letter to make it stronger, as the only work experience they have is internships?
Internships are really valuable, so I would definitely include those in your work experience and list out some of the tasks and responsibilities that you did. You could also expand in your education section. So if you have an undergrad or whatever program you've completed, underneath that, you could list out some of your relevant courses that are related to sort of the job or career that you're looking for. It'll fill up a little bit of extra room and just show that you've had a bit of training in different areas that might be relevant. And then in your summary, you can also go into some of your career goals or kind of what your aspirations are when you're finding a new job as a recent graduate. But yeah, definitely include your internships, any volunteer work you've done, if you were part of any clubs or any other awards or anything you might have won through school, scholarships, anything like that is valuable as well. But otherwise, yeah, you can maybe just expand a little bit on some of the courses that you've taken that are relevant.
This kind of goes along to that. Is it okay to add my professional designation to my name on my resume, e.g.
Yeah.
Tom John, EPT?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Feel free to do that.
Is there a problem of being overqualified while being matched? I've heard that very often during interviews, and I hope that that does not affect me while being matched with the software.
So being overqualified to a job that you're, sorry?
Yeah, do you think that the software would have any problem matching with them with someone if they are overqualified for that job?
That's a good question. That one might be worth running through JobScan to see if it kind of excludes you or not. If you're worried about that, I mean, you could just list the master's, but I guess the lower level education. But if, for example, you had an undergraduate of something that matches what they're looking for, it'll pull that keyword. So even if you have a PhD as well, I think it'll probably just pull the keywords that it's actually searching for, what it's scanning for. So I don't think it should disqualify you, but yeah, I would give that one a run through the JobScan and see what it comes back with.
Can we change our specializations at the point of resume submission?
That'd be a question for Andrea, I believe.
Yes, you can.
Great. Will we get a new mentor assigned if for some personal and professional reason the mentor quits the relationship?
Might need a little bit more specifics on that for why would the mentor quit. So
I think they're probably just asking in general, maybe.
Yeah, if there is an issue with the mentor, then you'll have to let us know and see what's going on, and then we'll go from there. But there shouldn't be any problem. But yeah, if there's any issues with the mentor, just like I said before, send an email to imm@eco.ca, and then we can take a look and see what's going on.
Okay. Can we get some sample formats of the resume and cover letter?
Yes, we will include that in the email that I'm going to send out tomorrow. There's going to be some samples in there as well.
And finally, for our last question of the day, any tips for an interview that I have scheduled day after tomorrow?
Oh, wow. Congratulations. I guess just be prepared, maybe research the company, make sure that you're fully aware of kind of what they do, what the job is about. Definitely practice some interview questions. So it's a good idea to just Google kind of general interview questions, look up behavioral interview questions. It's a really good idea to try and answer those out loud, maybe even write out your answers in full, try and like recite them over and over and over so that you're comfortable talking about them. Have some examples ready of certain scenarios that you've been in the past, times when you've showed like organization skills, attention to detail, that sort of stuff. I guess be on time, be professional. Another tip would be to send a thank you note after your interview as well. That kind of just shows your commitment and your gratitude for the interviewer taking the time to interview you. But yeah, those are kind of my tips right off the bat, but good luck. Hope you do well.
Great. And then another question just snuck through. We have 5 minutes left. Do we have to pay the $300 for EPT?
No, that you will. There's a discount code on the application guide for the application fee, and also for the you guys also will get like the first year of the membership, and there's a discount code for that as well once you have gone through the process. Somebody from the EP will email you with that discount code so you can pay for your membership. That is only for the first year. The second year you guys will have to pay on your own.
And then branching off from that, Can I use the designation EPT while waiting for the Canadian Environmental Certification and Approvals Board?
That is a good question that I don't know. I will have to get back to you on that. I don't know the specifics. Like, I know you can use it once you're certified, but before, I'm not sure if there's a different way that you have to use it or it looks, because yeah, I'll have to get back to you. If you can send me an email, I will add that into the email that I'll send tomorrow. And that way, for those that have not received the certification yet, know what to do. So I'll let you guys know.
Okay, that's great. And that concludes our webinar for today. Thank you everyone for participating. Thank you, Lauren and Emma and Andrea. It was a wonderful job. Once I stop this recording, it will be sent out to you in a rendering within 24 hours after completion. You can look forward to it then. If you do not receive it, you can reach out to me at events@eco.ca and I will provide that for you. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.